In this surreal and suspended climate in which we are all immersed in varying degrees, between an unspecified underlying anguish and a slow but progressive evolution of general common sense, let us see the pertaining astrological context to draw its possible causes and traits of resolution. The disruptive and accelerating factor of the pandemic risk can easily be attributed to the recent epochal conjunction between Saturn and Pluto. Their last one in the same sign was in 1518, in full Renaissance climate. This very powerful conjunction between the Lord of Karma, Saturn, and the Lord of Purification, Pluto, was on the 10th of January 2020 in the heliocentric heaven, and geocentric on January 12, coinciding with the full moon of Capricorn. Pluto and Saturn convey the rays or causal energies that govern the Chinese nation, where this threat of contagion initially exploded, a perfect test challenge for the instinct of self-preservation that moves our lunar bodies. Esoteric philosophy thus defines the vehicles or bodies of the human personality built precisely by the lunar Pitris or lunar fathers, whereas the higher ones of the soul are created by the solar Pitris, namely those vibrations or beings which are responsible for the thought illuminated by love, wisdom, and will to good. Why lunar? According to the esoteric astrology, the moon is the mother of form, receptive and generative, which finally, when it is illuminated by the sun, the soul, manifests the creative will of Vulcan, the heart of the sun, which represents the soul consciousness aspect of the solar system. Going back to Pluto and Saturn, beyond the unlimited range of emotional and mental reactions that flood the network and our unified planetary field, this pandemic phenomenon triggers the necessity to discriminate in handling the urgency in outer activities. This is Saturn, which pertains to the rational planning, and the internal anxieties, Pluto, which concerns the regeneration and liberation from the underworld. As well as it requires resources of creative imagination and intelligence to reinvent and reframe our isolated and common living. The presence this year even of the wise and benevolent Jupiter, second ray of love wisdom, in this sign of the light supernal, Capricorn, expands the motions to crystallization on the one hand, and ascension to the initiatory summit on the other, teaching also through severe lessons to transform individualistic desires into responsible or spiritual love. The triad of the so-called three rays of aspect, first Vulcan Pluto, second Jupiter, and third Saturn, shines in the summit, and great initiatory possibilities open up to the planetary and human consciousness. We are therefore at a fundamental crisis point, that is a point where there are opportunities for a choice of new directions, before the wonderful conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius on November 2nd. At a geocentric level, it will be on the 21st of December 2020. This conjunction is the first in Aquarius after their last one in 1404, now decidedly at the turn of and in support of the dawning age of brotherhood and universality. This year is therefore a really ideal year for a planetary new start, and everything seems to prepare the scene in order to present the resolution power of the marriage between Jupiter and Saturn, solar love and light spiraling around the central wheel of Sun Vulcan, our two builder brothers of the solar plan. Their combined cycle traces and sets up the plan of solar consciousness according to the sacred psychogeometries of the 6 and 5-pointed stars, which are formed every 60 years. 60 years, in fact, include 3 conjunctions between Jupiter and Saturn every 20 years approximately. And these 3 outline the circle of the zodiac, the triangle, the first surface, while the oppositions draw another symmetrical triangle. 2020 is therefore the year of the closure in the sign of Aquarius of the initiatory star of Jupiter-Saturn, started in 1961 with their conjunction in Capricorn, the 34th star of 60 years since the first advent of Christ. The air element of this conjunction in Aquarius is the substantial quality bearing expansion, and it is new compared to the earth one of Capricorn, Taurus, Virgo of the last 180 years, whose keyword is contact. Stars consecrated to the summit in Aquarius will therefore begin in 2020, 2080, 2139 and in 2199. And these evolutionary impulses will guide humanity towards universal service through group consciousness, towards universal brotherhood, golden cooperation, clarification and distribution of knowledge, all qualities consecrated to the sign of Aquarius. Even Neptune, 6th ray of abstract idealism and devotion, from his kingdom Pisces, 2nd and 6th ray, in deep sextile to the luminaries soaring in Capricorn, instills the redeeming solution of the communion of hearts. In essence, we are one family, for better or for worse, and this scientific truth is the launch site for the return in group consciousness to the Father's home, aligned with the higher will of our planetary logos. The heliocentric perspective from which these readings of the heavens set off, as if the heart of humanity was already at the center, that is the sun, soul, leading the planet, pertains analogically to the world of causes, the abstract mental plane, named higher manas in Sanskrit, that makes up that extremely subtle vibration or energy substance of which the human soul or egoic body and lotus are constituted, that group consciousness able to recognize through wisdom the common good. The geocentric level, which pertains to the precipitation of the energies on the planet up to the individual level, presents a much more tense situation. The heaven of the equinox is consecrated to the Aries-Libra electric axis, those 2 signs, the Alpha and Omega, that transmit the 1st, 3rd, 7th ray, and vector of the supreme and initiating energies of the Great Bear, the source for those 7 rays of life which inform all the forms of our solar system. In this unique equinox, Mars, the god Aries, ruler of Aries, is also in Capricorn in exaltation and in conjunction with Jupiter and Pluto, while Saturn is about to enter Aquarius for the first time. Mars, lord of conflict but also of desire, which translates the wheel of Vulcan into action, governs the solar plexus of ordinary humanity, and therefore is the great motor and thermometer of human general feeling. In Capricorn, so powerful and magnified by the conjunctions with the deep or transpersonal luminaries, it exalts the instinct of self-preservation, the crystallization of the form, as well as the ambition to gain power and material acquisitions, and the desire for command. Nevertheless, in this exceptional situation which challenges on a physical and mental level the substantial basis of safety and mobility, vis-à-vis health, economic exchanges, and human connections, the energies of the solar plexus of humanity, Mars, because of the suffering which comes from the prolonged fear and uncertainty that generates by law the repulsion towards the cause of pain, as the Buddha taught with his 4 noble truths, are driven upwards, Pluto, by reaction, to become more and more permanently the fuel of the heart, Jupiter, the center of unity in brotherhood and freedom. The other planets of the equinoctial impulse assist this constructive renewal. Firstly, Uranus and Venus in Taurus, which reformulate the crystallized forms, square Uranus-Saturn, so that they are harbingers of evolution, of water of life, Venus square to Moon in Aquarius, and of redeeming and unifying light, aspects to Mercury and Neptune in Pisces. It is peculiar indeed that this crisis point of mass consciousness follows the moment of subjective communion attested with the minute of global silence at the beginning of the Impact Week of the new group of World Servers, 21-28 December 2019. Not wanting to limit this relationship with any consideration or opinion, we only observe how the general atmosphere can change in a little time, and how it can be instilled in unusual and unexpected ways and according to the law of tactica adversa, the primary idea of brotherhood of the age of Aquarius, through the ideal of right human relationships, precisely highlighting the price to pay if they are not present yet. Exemplary is the emergence of the inconsistency of borders, whether they are individual, regional or national, and of the absurdity of insulating walls, driven by the desire to maintain possessions and not to protect, which is always a sacred and unifying action, never a divisive one. These are unique times, yes tragic yet glorious, that lead painful humanity to recognize itself as one, to transform uncertainties and doubts in the light of wise discrimination, fear and anguish in courage and loving detachment, aggression and hatred in the will to good. In a word, we are moving ever more consciously and united towards liberation from the heresy of separativeness and the illusion of death.